Welcome back to the MMA Creators Podcast, episode number 109. Now, it's a very, very hot day here in the UK, but we're here providing, regardless, golden nuggets of information on the creator and MMA side of things. And I think we should start with the latter, because Saturday night had, I think, the result we were all expecting, but that doesn't make it any less shocking. You know, watching that Ilia Topuria finish over Charles Oliveira last night, or on Saturday, should I say, at UFC 317, was just like the rest of his previous finishes, visceral, brutal, and all the other words I can't think of to describe it. It was violence personified, as is characteristic of the man. I mean, give me your thoughts, because it's one of those rare times for me where I've shouted at 6 a.m, and nearly woke people up in the house as a result, because, man, brutal.
Honestly, I felt almost numb to the result, and in fact, not even that animated, which isn't a reflection of how I feel about Ilia Topuria. It's just a reflection of how I thought that fight was going to go, how confident I am in his skills, and how confident he is in his skills. And there wasn't much of my mind which was occupying a world where Charles Oliveira was going to do the unspeakable. I didn't take off the table, but I knew that 9.2 times out of 10, Charles Oliveira is dropping that left hand. I've made 5-10 videos on that since his last fight with Oliveira, where he's had multiple different bouts with that. He has improved it slightly, but when he was moving forward and he was dominating the fight a little bit more and he was having more success. But as soon as Ilia Topuria just started with that jab, he started to change the tempo, and then boom, started just using some pump fakes to draw out the attack. He knew he was going to be able to draw it out. Charles knew he was going to go forward. He just planted his feet and just let go of the most beautiful 2-3. And it was just, like you said, poetry in motion. So I wasn't surprised, but I was impressed.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing you can really say to describe it. I think the one thing that really stuck out to me wasn't actually the fight itself. It was in the walkout. And obviously I feel like this is the point I'm trying to make here, is kind of representative of Ilia's character and just his whole persona in the build up, is just the fact he was kind of smiling in the walkout, because he just knew he knew what was going to happen. He spent months manifesting that in every facet, just as he did when he knocked out Volkanovski.
Celebrated the night before.
Yeah, celebrating, standing on a table, swirling around a napkin, because he knows he's going to win. And like, I at that point, I was just riding with him. I said, this is it. He's just going to do it, and it's going to be brutal, and it's going to happen. And obviously, I'm not going to sit here and call us geniuses for predicting the early knockout on Saturday night, because we're definitely not. It was so obvious. I believe everything Ilia Topuria says, and that's why I actually love watching him so much, is because everything that he says, not just does he actually bring it to fruition, he brings it into reality, but you just accept it as the truth, because there's not a realm where I think anyone beats him right now in a comparable weight class. Do you know what I mean? I really just don't see it. I made the point on my stream on Sunday or yesterday, should I say, that he might be the pound for pound hardest hitter. You know, everyone would have said Josh Emmett, but that right hand was just different. I mean,
not Josh Emmett.
You don't think so?
He's up there.
You think he hits harder than Josh Emmett, or not as hard?
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know. If you're asking me if they both
on that first shot was just, I don't know.
That didn't surprise me at all, to be honest. That really didn't. He's been hit in every single one of his fights like that. But more times than not, people don't have an elite level of boxing in MMA. They just don't. So even if it's some former champions, but a lot of the people Charles was facing more recently, the Arman Sarukians, the Michael Chandlers, people say, oh, Michael Chandler's super explosive. He is, but he isn't the most powerful puncher. He just isn't, right? Because it comes down a lot to just the delivery of the punch, how you can set it up. Can you get people to react in different ways to give you more gaps? And then it comes down to mechanics and to landing, and where's your feet, and how's your positioning, how's your balance? Things that a lot of these guys are not known for. So Ilia Topuria just has that different level of power. But the interesting thing for me, one of the most interesting things about this fight, it was so dominant. It was such an incredible knockout. We almost forget that he dominated Charles in the ground game, didn't get taken down, was too smart, too savvy there against the cage, and then passed his guard with ease, took side control, then took the crucifix, and then managed to stay safe and really smart and exit the leg locks when Charles started to invert. And I started thinking, that's an issue. Islam didn't pass his guard. Islam couldn't pass his guard in that first round. I don't know what it would look like in the third, but he didn't pass his guard. He knocked him down and then boom. Then he did. And then he got the submission. But when they were both dry and they were both strong, like that fight, brother, that is a very, very dangerous little clip that we've just seen of grappling in that fight, to be perfectly honest. Really, really dangerous. Just not anything crazy, not anything wild, but just the fact that within 3 steps of just jiu-jitsu, he passes his guard, goes side control, boom, straight into a crucifix, and then shows off good leg lock defense as well against one of the best people at that sort of game at lightweight. Jesus, that's a lot of...
Crazy.
That's a lot of markers to hit in a fight, in a 1-round fight. 1 round.
2.5 minutes.
We saw all those elite levels. We saw elite boxing. We saw elite defense with the grappling, elite offense with the grappling. Crazy. Scary.
You tell me a single fighter right now, in terms of an actual comparable matchup. So I'm not talking, I'll put him against Tom Aspinall, but within the realms of possibility that can actually beat him right now. A single fighter right now.
I can give you 2.
Can I guess?
No.
To be fair, I'll rephrase. I'll rephrase. Yes. Not can, yes, will. I'm not saying can. I'll say will. Will beat him. Not can. Will.
I think that's a different conversation, right? Because if you're asking me, is there someone that I favour more times out of 10 to beat him? No. That's not the case. And that just isn't how you pick fights, right? But if you're asking the question, are there people out there I believe could rise to the occasion and do something crazy? Yeah, I do. And there's 2 names more immediately and realistically.
I feel like actually I know what you're going to say. I think one of them you're going to agree with me. I actually kind of agree with you here that as someone who definitely has a chance and very much looks to be on the table judging by Saturday night's events, and that's Paddy Pimblett. I got a lot of flack for saying it. And I know we've spoken about it before, so I knew that'd be one of the names on your list. Because he has a good chance. People don't want to admit that, but it's true. I think that's a harder fight than Sarukian and Gaethje. I think Gaethje is sending him to the wolves. I can't lie. That's legalized murder putting Justin Gaethje against Ilia Topuria. I think that would go horribly for Justin. So I wouldn't even want to see that matchup. Sarukian's another question. I thought you were going to say Makhachev as your number 2.
Those are the exact names. And there's one intangible of why I believe Paddy Pimblett's on that list as well. When you're coming against someone like Ilia Topuria, where he is at now in his career, what he has done, what he has said, what he has executed on, he now carries a mystique and an inevitable aura that when people step in the cage, you can't help but see boom, 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 legend, knockout, on all of the highlight reels. So now a lot of people could even be beaten before they actually step in the cage now. He's getting to that sort of level when you look at his skills, because if you're not a takedown artist, you look at him and you think, right, okay, I'm not really going to take him down, or no one's been shown to be able to do that and win an advantageous position. Okay, so if I can't do that, I'm going to have to strike. If I'm going to strike, he more times than not capitalizes on any small micro infringements in the pockets. And guess what? MMA fighters, for the most part, have a lot of those, where it's like defensive boxing in the pocket, exits, angles, pivots. For the most part, a lot of guys don't have that. They just don't. That's an observation, right? At the elite level boxing, that's exactly what they have. So my point of saying that, all of this, is you need someone that is going to have sure skills, but more than that, confidence. The confidence that they can win. The confidence that it doesn't matter that it's Ilia Topuria, that he's been knocking everyone out. You are the guy to not only beat him, but take his win streak and his unblemished record, which is insane by itself. 28 years of age, and he's undefeated, and he's knocked out all these legends. I'm going off on a tangent, but let me say this last one thing. I'll throw it over to you. Just what if, let's play out a ridiculous scenario for 4 seconds. 40 even. Okay. He has 4 more fights. He goes out and faces Paddy. He goes out and faces Islam. He goes up to welterweight. He faces JDM. And then one more, maybe even not even that. And then he retires, like he said that
3.
he would at 30, right? He said he'd retire at 30. He said he'd retire young. And what if he has 3 more fights? What if he has 4 more fights and just knocks everyone out, or at least beats them? We're looking at not only the greatest of all time, one of the greatest of all time ever. John Jones, out the question. You're looking at Khabib, GSP's probably even out the question. People weren't flatlining legends. Like, that's the best 3-fight run ever.
It is.
Ever.
It's absurd. It is mental, isn't it? I'm glad you brought that point up, because I said that pretty much word for word, literally in my Discord this morning. I said 3 fights. I said he beats Paddy Pimblett, then maybe 1 more defense against someone like Arman or Makhachev if circumstances align, and then moves up, fights JDM, wins the welterweight title, retires on top as the first ever 3-weight champion, and I think retires as the greatest. I think that's what's going to happen. You're right. He said he's going to retire young, just like Conor McGregor at least said he was going to do back in the day. He says, I'm going to get here, do my thing, and then bounce. Pretty much, not the exact words McGregor used, but it wasn't far off it. And Ilia Topuria is pretty much the same. I just don't see a realm. I really don't. He's the most complete fighter I've ever seen. Him and Tom Aspinall really just represent the new breed of fighters where I just cannot sit here and say with any confidence someone has a good chance of beating them. I really can't. It's just, who else can you ever say that against? Truly, like, obviously back in the day, you would have said it about Prime John Jones,
Demetrius
but not
Johnson.
even. Yeah, Mighty Mouse maybe, but the level of competition I think is a fair point to make there with Mighty Mouse's title defenses. As much as I love the man, it's like,
no, but if you're asking the question, people looked at them and they couldn't beat them. That was the mistake that sort of DJ had. John Jones had that as well, undoubtedly. GSP less so.
Must had been beaten though. I don't know. It's crazy, isn't it? It's not hyperbolic to say it. It really isn't. It's not hyperbolic to say. What, Mighty Mouse? Dominic Cruz.
Yeah.
I know. Back in before he was training full time. I know my game, bro.
No, go back further.
Is there anyone else? Oh shit. No.
Are you joking? This is day one.
Oh no, you're saying, well, Cejudo beat him obviously, but you're talking even earlier.
Brother, WBC. Jesus
Don't.
Christ.
I'll pick it. I don't forget. Of course.
That was that.
He's got 4 losses. Is there one more?
I think so.
Is there one more I'm missing? Oh, he lost to Moraes in 1. There we go. I do know. Give me a second. But the point stands, right? I don't think we've seen a fight. It's not hyperbolic to say this is the most complete fighter in mixed martial arts history. And it's not hyperbolic because this game has progressed so much and MMA is so new in the grand scheme of sport that the evolution we're seeing on a macro level is just insanely quick. So you have guys like Ilia Topuria and Tom Aspinall come in, which just clearly are so far better than everyone else. They just are. And yes, you can make the argument Ilia Topuria hasn't been around long enough to suggest he deserves to be in those top spots, but I disagree. I think this guy is phenomenal. And we had this exact conversation about Volkanovski when he beat Yair Rodriguez at 290, and I said, just embrace and enjoy the greatness while you can, because it won't be long until they're gone or they're out their prime. One of the two.
Same thing.
And then Volkanovski obviously went on to lose again to Makhachev. Exactly. It's exactly the same thing. And with Topuria, I don't think it's going to be a case of a loss. I just think, as you said earlier, he's going to retire young. 3 fights, I give it. 3 fights, maybe even 4, right? As you said. And then he's out. And we're going to be wishing he was back in the octagon again. So I'm just enjoying the moment and, oh man, I love it. So you're talking about stars. Have you seen the view counts? I believe it's probably over 10 million views, because if you don't know, apologies, got a sneeze there. I think they posted the full knockout, for those who don't know, on YouTube, which they very rarely do unless they're trying to propel someone to superstardom. They posted the full knockout of Charles Oliveira on YouTube, and in just over a day, if I can find it on the UFC channel, it has 11 million views. It's already surpassed Sean O'Malley's knockout of Aljamain Sterling, which was posted a year and a half ago.
And UFC 300, Max Holloway.
Yeah, and the 300 knockout over Justin Gaethje, which is arguably the most iconic in the sport's history. So you want to talk about superstars? This is the guy. Give him the Bernabeu. Give him 90,000 people. Give him a stadium show. And I'm annoyed when I say that, because we know full well the UFC aren't going to do it, which is ridiculous. But
no. If we can get 120,000 subscribers onto a petition of John Jones being stripped, you can get a good amount to make some pressure for the Bernabeu. I'm not sitting here telling the UFC how to operate and run. They've done a good job of that so far. And everyone is a backseat driver, for sure. But there are some things where the fan base, or at least the general consensus, is correct. This is one of them. This makes sense from every angle plausible. The only angle this doesn't make sense from is if logistically they can't actually book the stadium for the timeline which arises for his next fight. That is the only thing. And if that is the case, call me crazy, it should be done in Liverpool.
Of Paddy Pimblett. I understand the sentiment in Anfield. Yeah, I get it.
Think about it.
I'd say yes. Of course I'd say yes, but in terms of, I was about to say in terms of principle, when's this game ever been about principle? You're right.
Hear me out.
No, it makes sense.
Hear me out, right? What is Ilia Topuria always slated for? Replicating Conor or using his lines? Well, he's got another chance to, because he can say, I want Paddy in Liverpool. And it's going to become a meme where it's, I want Khabib in Russia. Isn't he great? And Ilia Topuria slightly wants that. If they turn around and said, you cannot have this in this stadium, we cannot make this work, right? And there's nothing that we can do about that, but we have an option at Anfield. He'll say 100%. 100%. You don't think that he loves a narrative and a storyline? He didn't really care that much for Paddy, right? He doesn't dislike him that much. He doesn't feel much of a way to him because he's so dialed in and focused on his life and task at hand. But he understands the game. He got him into the cage. He pushed him. There was no animosity in that push. If you actually look at his face, he's kind of laughing and pushes him. And Paddy knows the exact same score as well.
Yeah.
Like the exact same score. There is a narrative back there, right? We saw them spud on the stage. I spoke to his manager a little bit and sort of asked him about them. And I got a vibe. They just understand the game. Both of them are fantastic marketers. Both of them have been able to navigate this flipping crossroads to this crescendo where we actually have a lightweight title between Ilia Topuria, who's now a double champ, and Paddy Pimblett. They're both undefeated in the UFC.
I know. It's crazy.
It's very rare that real life,
isn't it, right?
It's very rare in real life that you have narratives so authentically created. And this is something which I'm obviously looking at so much with the TWC at the moment, is creating those narratives and those storylines. And this is one of the best you have. And a slight side tangent, but I do just want to say this. In 24 hours, I just find this mental, and it is a subtle humble brag, but in 24 hours, that video had 9 million views. That one of Ilia Topuria. We posted I remember seeing on like the 24-hour mark, it had like 9.6.
Oh, right. Sorry. No, from now. Yes, my bad. Apologies.
Yeah. Within the time block frame, it was something like 9.9 to 9.6. And then this weekend posted a voiceover clip of the World Championships from 2024. Just one of the prelims, right? Just one of the early prelims with a voiceover of me and this other girl who's a broadcaster. It did 1 million views in a day.
Seriously?
It did 1 million views in a day on TikTok. It was crazy.
Nah, and then on your page?
No, on the Toe Wrestling one, which is like a cold account. So
wow, that's even more impressive.
Yeah, it's crazier, right? If you go on Toe Wrestling on the TikTok, it did that in...
I'm having a look now.
Pretty much a day.
That is insane. Jesus Christ, you're right. Fucking hell.
So for context...
yeah, that is insane.
I went into... Have a little scroll as well, like, take a look at some of the ones that have just been going off. So for some context, I went into London this weekend to go and basically have a sort of meeting, but essentially a big day of work where a few of the members of the team came in and we just smashed out loads of pieces of work. And one of the things that we did at the end was we got all of the footage, pun intended, and we got myself and Elizabeth, who is a journalist and a broadcaster, to do these voiceovers. And she's always done it just by herself, and she's done a couple. And we were like, you're incredible. You have a really good natural skill. And you are the Joe Rogan of our sport. And she thought we were sort of taking the piss, but we were being 100% serious. I mentioned this before. She's very, very good at what she does in regards to and she's never had any rep, sorry. And obviously the sport is still the terms aren't as known, and the common phrases and the passages of play and all of these things are less known, so it's not as easy at the moment. Anyway, we said, oh, why don't we do it together and we can sort of just bounce it off each other and see how it comes out. And we did the first one just cold off the rip, and it obviously wasn't perfect, but we kind of like looked at each other and we was like, this is quite good. And then the champ, we were about 3 in, and the champ just was looking over and said, he's obviously always quite joking and whatnot. He just looked over and said, this is incredible. And I was doing it and I was listening to it with me and her. And then I watched the final product back and I just thought, this is going to go insane. With the commentary, the voiceovers, the incredible angles, the multitude of angles, the close-up face shots, the top-down, the side views, and then the way that it's being built out to have just full clips like that, that's going to go insane. That is going to go absolutely insane.
I love it. I'm just looking at it now. Like, I love the reaction camera almost of going back and forth between the two people. That's it. That's the essence of everything that it's about. I think right there is the reactions. I think that's from the fighters themselves. So, yeah.
Look at the faces. The animation in the faces is so good for that close, tight up angle. And it just shows such raw emotion. You can't help but watch these videos and just look at the raw emotion on these people's faces. Sometimes it's confusion at the start. Sometimes it's bemusement. Sometimes it's just raw passion. Sometimes it's just flipping anguish. Someone's just looking angry. And sometimes it's just sheer competitiveness. It's like an arm wrestle when you just get a random Joe Blog off the street and they start arm wrestling. They start realizing they're a little bit competitive and they're like, same thing. My friend hits me up the other day. I'm going off on one here, but my friend hits me up the other day and said, Will, you're never going to believe it. I said, what? He said, I walk into class to run my kickboxing lesson and there's a couple of the boys in the corner just toe wrestling. And I went over and said, what are you doing? And they went, oh, we're warming up with some toe wrestling. And they went, my friend, who one of my closest friends and knows everything about this, has been to the events and whatnot as well, said, oh, have you seen toe wrestling? He said, yeah. He was like, oh, that's my friend helps run that. And then he said, oh, do you know Cassius Clay? I was like, yeah, but they didn't know it was interlinked and they were doing it in the gym. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, we're finally getting the transfer to that sort of community. Crazy, which was the first example I got of that, which is insane. And then last one, just on that, just because these have been flipping wild. Someone then DM'd me and said, oh, my girlfriend sent me this video of this thing that we had to do and it was toe wrestling. And I said, oh, I knew you and I followed your page. So people had been sending it to like their boyfriends who had been messaging me on Instagram as well. So mate, the next 4 months are going to be crazy. McDojo Life's just got his Topuria. So he's got his 8-part series that he's doing on YouTube as well. So that's one of the biggest flipping names in sort of comedy combat sports, if you like. So sorry for the
the thing is, no, it's not even a side tangent. It's such an important thing, especially with something like that. It's so important to say because it's not a direct, I guess I'm taking a point from what you said before a while ago about clothing, and when you were talking about with your mentor, about you just need it in the hands of one person, or the right person. I'm not saying he could be that guy, but I think about, like, McDojo Life was mentioned on Joe Rogan once or twice here and there. And I'm not saying this is going to happen, but it's about putting things in the right place. So things
it's 100% going to happen.
Yeah. So imagine McDojo Life does that, and then that Joe Rogan starts talking about it. Suddenly your toe wrestling's getting mentioned on JRE. You know, it's like,
I think inevitably
it's circumstance.
I think inevitably, I've thought this for a long time, but I'll 100% get invited onto Joe Rogan to talk about that. 100%. My friend even said to me yesterday, I remember you saying a good way to get better reps was to just speak aloud to yourself or answer questions or whatnot. And I used to always have podcasts to myself, sometimes an hour and a half podcast of, I'll just be on Joe Rogan's and have an hour and a half podcast to myself. Sometimes I do it in the shower for 20, 25 minutes, these different things. And obviously at that time, I didn't have toe wrestling as a way that I thought it was probably going to come about. But now I look at it and I think about, okay, I know obviously I've got way less reps in and skin in any game than Craig Jones, but he was invited there to talk about CJI and that event, and obviously other people have done the same. So I look at that and think 100% people are going to want to know about it. The reality is every single day we get hit up by the biggest media outlets in the world. It's insane. And because I've ran accounts and I've ran channels and I know what it looks like from the behind the scenes, I know what is typical and what is not typical. And I say it so much, but it is just so far from typical. I can't explain to you. One day you can just open up the DMs and it'll be flipping Capital, which it was the other day. And then the next day you can open it up and it's Spain's Got Talent and the champion's getting flown out there. The next day it's flipping Jimmy Fallon. It's
seriously.
Yeah. The 17-time world champion was on whatever the one was, which has been battled with Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel, that was the one. He was on Jimmy Kimmel.
Is it on YouTube?
It was on Jimmy Kimmel.
Maybe it was
Alan Nasty Nash. No, this was years ago. This was decades ago. He's been doing this for years. Mate, this isn't new. Like, we are bringing this to light, but they've actually been doing this for a minute. He's been flying around the world as a champion for a minute. It's hilarious.
That's
Alan Nasty Nash.
Silly world, isn't it? Crazy.
The champion to me right now, Ben Total Destruction, is Tom Aspinall. He's my Tom Aspinall.
He's
Alan Nasty Nash is John Jones. The man is a bit debaucherous and a bit risque and a bit on the edge and a bit 30 years ago from Derbyshire, to be honest. And he's a little bit flipping, oh, can we have him on the TV representing our brand? Real talk. But that's why this is just so funny. The characters that have been built out, this is hilarious. And now I have to build Tom Aspinall, or my Tom Aspinall, Ben Total Destruction, into a megastar, a superstar. Like, I've said this to him so many times. His cousin, he's basically training his cousin, right, to beat the current world champion. But what we're now seeing is in wrestling, you have the Nurmagomedovs who live in Dagestan. And in toe wrestling, you have the Woodruffs in Ashbourne. And you go to Ashbourne and it is like the equivalent of a British Dagestan. It's the hills, there's not much there. It's literally just old bony people that have a sort of strength. And now he's training up the whole family. And we've got the Nurmagomedovs. He's got a chin strap and I'm going to get him to shave this. So we're going to get sent 2 to 3 years to Ashbourne and forget. It's just hilarious. Like, it really is. But it's so interesting, I find.
That's crazy. It really is insane. Big inroads then, Jesus.
I know. A day to get a million views.
I know you expect it. I know it's not surprising for you, but yeah, that is insane. In a day, that is mental on TikTok. Fair folks. Well done. I mean, I don't know what else to say to that. Well done.
When you hear the voice notes, you see what I mean. They're obviously not perfect, and I listen to them back, and if I could have 2 attempts on them, I'd be infinitely better. And even we did a full recording and we didn't have much time left in the day because we'd been there all day and night. We recorded it as though it would be, but we didn't have it live on the actual day. No. So we recorded it as it would be, right? So we just did it in one take with stumbles and everything. So it didn't seem like it was edited and post-recorded. It seemed like it was actually live in the flesh. So we even had the chat. So mate, there's one, honestly, incredible segment where we're talking and Connor, who's like the main producer, looks at me and goes, and I didn't really know what he meant. And he meant, I'll get the champ to act like it's coming over and doing a segment. So I was talking about a technique. I said, okay, so this is the combing. This is where there's a lot of breaks that happen and this is how to mitigate it. In fact, we've just got the champion in my shoulder now. He's going to jump on the mic and explain how to mitigate this at the highest level. And I just like put the mic to him and he just starts flowing. Right. So what you want to do? And he's like a little bit out of breath. So it sounds like he's just in the background and we've got the general background noise as well. And I listened to it back and I was thinking, this is incredible. This is just, I was watching it in live speed and just thinking,
love it.
Everything's going to change. That's just what I was thinking. I was just thinking everything is going to change, is about to change with this brand and sport. Just in that moment, it just sort of clicked again. It was wild. I can't even, yeah, I know. I said I love it. It was wild.
Yeah. No, big, I mean, we were talking about obviously just talking off the rip, uncut. That's something I've actually been doing a lot today. Earlier this morning, just kind of in terms of practicing. Well, actually, it wasn't practice, it was practical application. And the reason that is because on one of my Patreon tiers, I have obviously create a deep dive. So I did a full uncut, barring like one cut actually, where I had to stop the recording for other reasons. Like 45, 50 minutes, full deep dive breakdown of my Francis Ngannou video. And I did that because someone signed up to my top tier. So Again, we're talking about inroads. Shout out to, I don't know if it's full username because he just changed it, but Wolf, he goes by something like that. One of those various nicknames. But shout out to you, my man. He's probably listening actually now, but yeah, that was a real fun, not even experiment because it's going to be a repeated thing, but it was difficult. It was interesting and difficult, maybe a little bit all over the place, but as I said, growing pains, getting the reps in, starting new projects. So that was quite fun. And again, I guess it speaks to what I was telling you all the time. You know, Patreon is a valid road to tread. So exciting times, very exciting times ahead.
I always say this, but I will say it again. I never doubted that it had value inherently just had value. It was just whether it made sense at the time for me, but it's good to hear that you've got your first subscriber. That's actually really good. And you just have to kind of treat the first one like the only one and do that for as many people as you can and is possible. So yeah, good work with that. I had said before, I've finally got my YouTube up and running after basically 5 years loosely trying to get that monetized. That is now finally monetized and earning on videos, which is honestly most, oh my goodness. I've had a lot of experiences on all of these platforms over the past half decade. Nothing. And I've earned money, like primary bits of money on places like TikTok, good amounts as well. And then I see YouTube monetized after essentially half a decade, and then even £5, I think was like on the first day. I said before, I was like,
yeah, no, it's
that was right? One of the nicest feelings, to be perfectly honest, because it also felt as though, right, okay, now sort of Pandora's box is unlocked. Now it's a case of go and be the best at this, stay within the guidelines, know the restrictions, go and be the best in this. And now the cap is completely off and your potential is untapped in regards to earning potential and the compound effect of that. Even the compound effects of just shorts in the background, just a little chipping away, a little 30p, a little 40p, a little 50p, a little pound, boom, 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 boom. And then some now get 50k, 60k, 70k, and that just slowly builds in the background. Yeah, it's definitely exciting. And the principles
this is exactly the plan, right? With that passiveness. That's what I'm talking about. Because I don't know if you use the vidIQ extension. I didn't really know about this until I had that chat with Patrick Avia. He told me about it. It's free. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to see outliers on YouTube. So it gives you a multiplier score for every video you see on the homepage or your whatever channel you're looking at.
So?
And it tells you so an outlier score is based on if it's outperforming the channel's average. And it also tells you how many views per hour it's currently getting, the video, which is great. And so just to put this in perspective, my video I posted like 5 weeks ago, or 4.5 weeks ago, is right now pulling 100 views an hour still.
Nice.
This is what I mean. This is, yeah. So it's about to crack 100k. Then it's just slowly chugging along. So I'm building that, slowly going to build that library up. I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I'm very excited to put it all together. And the Ngannou video is going to drop. Obviously, it's all done and it's actually up on the Patreon now. So now it's a matter of getting people to convert over. And I think once this video goes live on YouTube, because obviously there's a Patreon plug in the video, then you're going to start to see more people flow in. But exciting times.
It's also always important on all of these platforms to just essentially break down such micro goals and such micro sort of things to tick off and achieve, and then just keep moving the crossbars ever so slowly. And then I find it makes it a lot simpler to then build off of that. Even for me, in context with the GBTV, it was okay, get to one a week, right? Then it was one a week, then it was slowly level XYZ element up, and then it was my intro retention wasn't that good, let me try and improve my retention. All these things are ever changing, they're ever flexible, but things that I started to try and refine. And then I got to the point, it was like, okay, now I've got all of those, now let me try and get one to crack 1,000. It was like, okay, I did that, and then it was consistently get that, and now I'm in a position where even though it isn't crazy, I understand the game of all of these platforms, and now sort of consistently getting even 2,000 people a week watching the GBTVs and seeing the sort of reoccurring effects in real life, most importantly, and then online of where people are speaking about it or referencing it or watching it on different channels and whatnot. And now I'm starting to sort of see it pick up a little bit more. It is definitely exciting for sure.
I think you can always be surprised about your reach online. I think with that, like, I mean, obviously, I think we do a pretty good job of, I think with the experience we've had, comprehending the reach and pull our content has. So I don't think it's much of a surprise anymore. It still does to me at times, but as I said, you know, it comes back to when I said a few weeks ago when I got recognized on the bus on the way back for training by some random guy. Like, to me, that's obviously,
that's a bit wild.
Did I tell you about that?
You did, but
did I not tell you?
I'm just internalizing it again.
Yeah, it is crazy because that's obviously a much more familiar experience for you. Obviously, we've spoken about it at length before, like when you're Fight Week and stuff like that, people knowing your name and more so than it is for me.
No. At places,
it's a guy who's my gym and stuff, but on the bus, on the way out I'm training. So like I was then, I heard like a Joe Rogan commentary or something in the background. I'll have my headphones in. I was like, someone's watching UFC. And then this guy taps me on the shoulder saying, is this you? And I was like, yeah, it's me. I was so freaked out about it. But it's like those moments are the ones where it's like, it really puts into perspective. Well, when you're just looking at it from an online point of view, I think it's easy to comprehend in a lot of ways. You say, okay, wow, I really have this much reach. But seeing it actually apply to real life, that's completely different. But even from an online point of view, when you're talking about 2,000 people watching GBTV, you know, coming in each week, you know, that's such a powerful audience you have right there.
Yeah, I know.
And you know, there's that you can leverage. So that's something. And honestly, less about the number, more so about the returning group of people.
And honestly, obviously from an operational standpoint, I constantly want to improve the video, evolve the video, grow the audience. Sure, that's all true. But also in the short term, I don't lose sight of the fact that it's quite a cult following on that, quite a core audience now as well, or at least the core audience is being
you
built.
Look at the stats for that, right? Do you know them off the top of the head? The returning viewers
off the top of my head
on those.
But the returning viewers on, I can't remember what the video was on, but I remember it along the lines of, let's say I had 1,200 views. The reoccurring was around 900 or something, which I remember thinking the proportions were very, very high. And that's when it started to click. And then meeting a lot of people in real life that come to the gym mostly. A lot of times it was when people came to the gym, maybe they don't train there or they were just coming there for a one-to-one or whatnot. And they always say, I watched GBTV. There was a guy that came from Turkey and he came into the gym and said, I've been watching for years. And I know he didn't say all the characters, but in my head, I was thinking all of the characters because that's how I'm obviously trying to build it. But yeah, it is cool to see the sort of core audience growing for sure.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's really exciting times, man. I feel like with the content, it's less so. I've really been getting more excited about recently on like a macro level. It's less actually about the videos I'm creating, but more so. I was going to say it sounded shallow, but it doesn't even. I'm thinking so much bigger scale now. As I said, I've rewired my brain to treat it more like a business rather than just a job, or not even a job, but as a thing, as an entity. It's bigger than just me now. That's the way I'm treating it now. That's what's exciting me. That's what's getting me motivated. Almost, I feel like I'm much more aligned with not saying how you've always been, but I feel like you operate on that sort of wavelength to an extent. And I feel like now I'm much more aligned with that in terms of growing this into something bigger than just me. So I think very, very exciting. Because again, my perspective, sorry, go on.
No, all I was going to say is from my perspective, it just always seemed as though you very much enjoyed the art element and the creativity element, and you were almost reluctant to look at it from a business perspective because you didn't want that to cloud the creativity and you didn't necessarily enjoy that as much, and you thought that it would take away in slight elements. Yeah, and sure, right? It's new and you don't know a lot about it.
I'm happy to admit that.
It's the same for everyone, by the way. Same for myself. It's intimidating because you start from zero and you look at the best operators every day, essentially, online. So it's also quite intimidating. So I think you slowly did a good job of separating, right, okay, I know what elements I like creatively, and I also like these angles from a business perspective, and I can sort of separate the two now and understand how to do them simultaneously and sort of have fun with both and enjoy both of them. But that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think with that, what I've done today, I've started to realize that now I'm just upping my output, not my output in terms of not videos, but what I'm actually doing each week. I have to have a little bit more semblance of structure, obviously in terms of writing down tasks I've been doing. But now I've just realized today, I decided to do a thing that I've literally wrote on a post-it note and just stuck it above my screens essentially. And I've just written on it, Sunday is my recording day, my shooting day. So everything with the camera, I'm just going to now allocate to that one day. I don't know what order I'm going to do it in, but so stream, podcast, if we normally record on the Sunday, of course, my creative vid, So that would be for one of the Patreon tiers. My in-depth deep dive video for the higher tier on the Patreon, and my B-roll for my documentaries, and also a video for my games channel as well. So I'm just going to get all of that done in one day. And I realize that's going to up my efficiency like so much more. Oh, it's exciting. I'm excited to I think that's what I'm saying. I'm not even thinking about how many views this Ngannou video is going to get on YouTube. I'm just thinking so much further ahead than that. So it's exciting. I need to think of a new video to do, actually. That was something I said to you for a long time, was just in regards to when you used to micro stress about the video. I used to try and essentially say your framework of thought is way too micro at the moment. It is. You were obsessed on the next thing, which was the next video, right? Which you have to be in a way, but also from a business sense and an emotional perspective, you cannot be. You have to just think longer term, right? Otherwise it just becomes this video, if flops, bad, and you don't progress. But you want to be thinking in a manner of, right, okay, how do I create systems and structures and do things at a level consistently and reap the rewards off the back of that? But it's interesting you say all that as well, because that's always been a problem for me. And the biggest question around anyone can answer this, right? Essentially, if you have a business or you have a brand and you basically want to know how to grow it or how to improve it, the question that would apply to every single person, which is what my cousin always said when it was business questions I threw at him, so I realized that was just the answer most times, was, what is the biggest constraint? So if you would like to grow, whatever metric that looks like for you, what is your biggest constraint to doing that? What is the thing which is preventing you from doing that? And for me, I think I was always aware that it was quantity of videos as well as quality. But what I'm realizing now is that is the case, but just at a different level, right? So now I'm where I look at the business and I look at myself now and I wake up and think, I've always wanted to strive for a lot and I've always wanted to run this thing properly. But now I look at it and think, flipping hell, I run this media outlet and I am essentially a CEO. I have to flip and act like it now. And I've sort of had to have a bit of a mental shift and think, oh my goodness, I have to operate to these levels now, right? Which is kind of insane for me. And I'm starting to realize that there cannot be an instance where on a day I'm shooting and editing and then posting a video, just trying to play catch up. That cannot happen. I have to be days, weeks, in fact months ahead of the curve of planning, filming, scheduling, editing content, and then being able to supplement it here and there with things that I'm doing on the fly. But most of my time is going into being on the creative element of things. And I have to improve that drastically. So I'm trying this week. And before I go to Thailand, I want all of that completely dialed in within the next 3 months to where I'm out there. And this is going to be truly operating like the company it should be. And I can just be truly free in creating each day. Sorry, that was a bit of a get one off my chest. No, but good. It's a good thing to do that. I mean, it speaks to the passion. It speaks to the passion and drive you have. I think that's the mindset. The end goal for me as well. I don't think I'm at a point where I can structurally and just work ethic wise be so ahead of the curve by months, because I just can't think that far long term in terms of videos that I want to create and stuff. Different circumstances, but I just being more on top of things structurally, even at a lower level, is what is the next goal in mind. But I did have a couple of queries for you, because this is something I'm still struggling with, just in terms of on the short term, the Ngannou video. I actually don't have a final title for it. I would love if you had a shout, any ideas, because obviously I'm basing it around the idea of Francis Ngannou being blessed and cursed, blessed with incredible physical traits and talent, but cursed with the tragedies of his life. And I used that Mike Tyson quote at the start of the video where he says, "You're favored by God, favored by the devil." And that's thematically what I've done with the thumbnail as well. I just need a title. That's the only little missing piece of the jigsaw. So if you have any ideas off the spot, no pressure. If not, it's all good. Yeah, it's difficult, right? I'm struggling.
I don't necessarily have a title for you, but just as a consumer, what's engaging me? You need to sort of, to some extent, lean into the Hollywood nature of this man's life. The fact that it is, of course, reality, but it's the most warped version of that. It sounds so unprecedented. It couldn't possibly be real, right? Because that is the life of Francis Ngannou. It truly is. It's more than a Hollywood movie. It's flipping wild. So I think you need to somehow get across that impact within the title. Now, that's not very constructive feedback, but that is just...
No, I understand what you're saying. No, it is.
No, it's
100%
not.
it is. It's just a matter of doing it tastefully as well.
Title. Of course, yeah, that's the most important
thing. I'm sure I can think of something. The negative framing is where I'm going for. But again, it's at the moment I've got something around the cursed career of Francis Ngannou, but I don't love it. So it's not going to beat the title, but it's just going to be around that idea.
Something about
the most tragic story in MMA.
There's something along the lines of hot and cold, heaven and hell. You know, there's something around those feelings within the
thumbnail.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe not necessarily it has to be, but an angle towards that within text form. Maybe it doesn't have to.
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to do.
It's
difficult, isn't it?
Not just the devil and the angel sort of thing, but that type of vibe, that sort of messaging that this man has had a life which has been the most ridiculous of highs and overcoming all the obstacles, and then incredible lows. And it just needs to get across that sort of...
I need to find it.
Chasm between the middle.
Well, in terms of, and another query, so I'm probing here, but this is just, I think, a good way to round off, because I do need some insight. I need a video to start on today, or at least start planning today. And I'm currently thinking of, I think I might do a Thomas.
It's obvious.
That's what I'm leaning towards. Is it? Ilia Topuria?
Yeah.
I've done one already.
No.
Not that long ago.
You haven't done this one, and it's so obvious. It's painfully obvious.
I could do another one, but how do I frame it?
Dustin Poirier.
Man mentality. Dustin Poirier?
He's retiring next month against Max Holloway, who he's fought twice. Are you being serious? He's one of the biggest stars in the sport. You're off your rocker.
Yeah.
You are off your rocker. The fact that you didn't respond with...
Okay, all right.
Oh, yeah, of course. That's a no-brainer.
I have been meaning to do it, to be fair. Oh, he's fighting in 3 weeks. Shit, less than 3 weeks. I'd have to get it done.
Perfect.
I don't know. I'd have to really pressure it.
When does the next one need to go out?
What angle would you frame it around? Well, I mean, whenever really, but I want to make sure it's in depth. And obviously I'll be launching on the Patreon early.
What I would do personally, if I were you, I would start it now with the timelines of playing it in a way where, despite the outcome, you could create the ending and it wouldn't affect the starting. And then you can actually do it after it and be very close to the timing of that, which could be quite exciting. And in regards to framing, I mean, mate, frame it however you wish. It's so good because there's so much footage. He literally had the documentary on him when he was an amateur. Fightville. That's incredible film. So frame it as one of the greatest of all time. Frame it as one of the most gamest, one of the baddest, one of the most consistent, one of the most steadfast, one of the most durable. He's been in the game for 20 years at the very top of the deepest division of all time.
One animal.
Yeah, there's not a lack of narratives for that man at all.
Maybe like the complete story of Dustin Poirier explained. I know that's not a great title for a documentary, but it's a good packaging format that would work. I know that would work.
Dustin Poirier's entire career explained.
Yeah. I like that. Maybe that, you know what? That might just be it. I'm glad. There you go. Simple. Look how quickly we do things here on the MMA Creators Podcast. But I think, unless you've got anything else to add, that is a lovely little place to wrap up episode 109. Thank you very much for listening. And we will see you next week. Have a good one.